With Mohamed Salah and Erling Haaland being the most expensive players in this year's FPL, it's quite hard to get both of them in a team. But don't worry, I think I have found the ultimate team for your Game Week 1 drafts that includes both Erling Haaland and Mohamed Salah. Now before we dive into today's video, we're first of all going to run through some quick stats to kind of give you a background on why you want to select both of these players in one draft. And of course we have partnered with Fantasy Football Hub for the upcoming season. So if you want to get your team rated for free by AI, there is a link in the description. Also, they are offering a 7-day free trial and money back if you fail to win your mini league. They've got plenty of high quality stuff going over on that website as well. Projected points, AI rating, plenty of good articles as well from top FPL managers. So, you know, go and check it out. Link in the description. Right, first of all, let's start off with Salah and Haaland themselves and why you might want to have both of these guys in your team. Well, for me personally, they are realistically, you know, going to do quite well over the opening couple game weeks. There's no doubt about that. As we can see from last season, both of them putting up pretty good scores as well. Erling Haaland still managing to get 27 goals and 8 assists, despite seeming never really to kind of click into gear last season and kind of dealing with a lot of injury issues as well. And Mohamed Salah, probably one of his worst seasons, but under a new manager, can he potentially bounce back to kind of where we've seen him in previous seasons? He's having a pretty good preseason so far, and if he can carry that into the campaign with Ipswich at home in Game Week 1, I think he could be a fantastic option. And having both of them, the big appeal is ease of captaincy, really. You don't have to think about it. For me, you're just kind of probably going to be rotating between these two for the armband themselves. So obviously Ipswich in Game Week 1, Ipswich in Game Week 2. That for me seems like a great strat already. Then you've got West Ham. Then you've got a toss-up of Nottingham Forest at home or Brentford at home. Then when Erling Haaland faces Arsenal and Newcastle, you've got Bournemouth and Wolves for Mohamed Salah. And then after that point, you're probably wanting to maybe look to jump off Mohamed Salah and start heading towards Saka, with them having Southampton and Leicester. And then obviously you've got Erling Haaland already in your side for Fulham, Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth. So for me, I think having both of them, it's just that ease of captaincy, isn't it? Especially around the fixtures. Those two, they are just big hitters. They're going to do extremely well over the course of the season as well. So for me, that makes sense for already going with them. I think one of the main drawbacks, though, of one of these drafts is, for me, the kind of sacrifices you have to make in other areas. And as we come on to see in the draft, there are quite a few areas that I feel, you know, potentially people that aren't going, you know, with one of them or none of them will have a huge advantage over you. But for me, I think it is that ease of captaincy. And if, you know, you think the captain, you know, they're going to do extremely well kind of over these opening set of weeks, it could be the correct strategy to go for. Interestingly as well, while I was browsing around on Twitter, one of our friends from Euro Fantasy Football, if you watched any of the content from that, you know how much of a legend this guy is. Rob T FPL, go and give him a follow over on Twitter. It looks like betting kind of odds have now started to appear for projected long-term FPL points. Now it's interesting that the bookmakers have started getting involved, because usually when bookmakers get involved, you know, they're clued up. They do their research. They're basically paid to do their research, and they very rarely get things wrong. And as you can see, who are the top players over the course of this season? It's Mohamed Salah and it's Erling Haaland. So if you wanted to build this draft, I think this should obviously give you quite a lot of confidence that, you know, the betting agencies, they're expecting these two players to do exceptionally well over the course of the season as well. Now, obviously some narrative has to be driven into this with injuries and obviously, you know, certain players returning back from Euros and, you know, certain players missing out and stuff like that. So there is a little bit of narrative. You can't just objectively look at data sometimes, but I think this is a very, very good indicator for why these two realistically do make sense in a draft together. Obviously, though, you're looking at it and you've got the likes of Saka, who's level with Erling Haaland. You've also got Palmer and Son pretty close by, and I think Foden is a little bit down on where he should be, just around some of the comments. I've seen it in Fantasy Football Hub's projected models as well for him, mainly down to the comments of Pep Guardiola suggesting that he's not going to be, you know, available for those first few game weeks. I think that's probably lowered his kind of points total down a little bit in terms of the bookmakers and in terms of Fantasy Football Hub's projected points model as well. But I think that's, again, works in the kind of other favour that these players are very, very close, and all it takes is maybe a couple mega hauls or a little bit of luck and fluke. that could push these guys potentially with the right combination of lesser players, you know, your 7.5s, you know, your more expensive defenders, to overtake the likes of Erling Haaland and Mohamed Salah. So I think there's, you know, a caveat to both sides, isn't there, really? I think you've got that ease of captaincy. You're probably realistically going to have both of the highest scoring players this year in FPL, but what does it hinder? It hinders you getting the likes of Saka, Palmer, Son, Foden, and then, you know, the more premium likes of defenders, as we can see in here. Porro's quite high up, Trent Alexander-Arnold's also on this list as well. So that, for me, is obviously the big caveat that you have to take away with this, and I do think that is one of the main downsides of going with both of them, but I completely understand why people want to do it. That ease of captaincy every single week is a massive appeal, but that's enough looking at the data. Let's go and dive into the draft itself. And the moment you have all been waiting for, it is going to be my my Haaland and Salah draft. Right, first off, let's start in goal. As you can see, this is pretty much the same goalkeepers I've currently got rocking in my draft. I think Dean Henderson with Sam Johnson looking likely to move, according to David Ornstein, makes him first choice. You can very easily get Matthews. Pretty good data as well last season. Crystal Palace, 5th for XG conceded, so I'm a big fan of that one. There's some pretty good opening fixtures, and he is one of the highest projected point scorers, 4.5 million goalkeepers over the opening couple game weeks. So nothing really kind of exciting in goal, but just a steady, solid 4.5 million goalkeeper who plays for a pretty decent defence. Right, let's move on into the back line. We're going to start off with Pedro Porro. As we saw with the last section, he's projected to do extremely well over the course of this season, above, you know, some of the Arsenal defenders as well. 3 goals, 8 assists for him last year, and he had the most shots amongst all defenders. Pretty good opening too. Does fade away with Newcastle and Arsenal, but I think because of his attacking nature, I think he potentially could make up in those more difficult fixtures anyway, and I think he's a great option as well. Pivot around, you know, some of the other players. I think Matteson is one that I've identified. I want to look at him for the opening few weeks and then potentially switch, so would free up a little bit more money in that case as well. Gvardiol, 6 attacking returns for him as well. Manchester City as well, keeping a lot of clean sheets last year, and we're very unfortunate with the amount I think they actually kept. There was so many times where they won the game on XG, didn't really concede too much XG conceded either, but still managed to concede goals. So for me, I think there will probably be a little bit more of a revert into the norm, and City will pick up decent clean sheets. And this guy's playing as a left winger, already had a pretty solid pre-season under his belt as well with Manchester City, seeing plenty of minutes, picking up a couple attacking returns whilst out in America as well. It'll be interesting to see how the Community Shield goes. Obviously, I'm filming this before that game has taken place. I think this video will probably come out after it. So if he has a really impressive performance in there as well, I think he's a great shout. Moving on to the next player, it is going to be, I think you pronounce it Quenza. I'm not 100% sure on the pronunciation of that one. I did Google it last time I included one of these videos. I think it was Quenza, but let me know in the comments if I'm getting that right. He's played a really big amount, of pre-season minutes over Konate as well, who has been there available for selection, and I think it's his spot to lose, to be honest. Speaking to a few other FPL managers in the know, they also expect him to do quite well. The Fantasy Football Hub model also has him picking up pretty decent points over the opening couple game weeks as well, and could be a nice easy route into a team that is projected to do quite well over the opening couple game weeks for clean sheets. If you've seen any of my other videos, we have obviously discussed that already in length using 11FI's model, and you know, Quenza was one of those players that just was, you know, picking up decent numbers. So I think for 4.5, getting into a Liverpool defence makes sense to me. Really does. The other 2 defenders are going to be Barco and Fast, just 2 4 million duds that can rotate in if we need them to. Right, let's move on into the midfield. We're going to start off with Nkunku. Now, I think there's a plethora of quality at that 6.5 million range. You've got, obviously, what's the guy's name? Morgan Gibbs-White. You've also got Leon Bailey. I think his per 90 numbers are phenomenal and definitely worth a little bit of consideration with some strong Villa fixtures as well. But Nkunku has been the man over pre-season that has been cooking. His, you know, projected points over the opening couple game weeks are pretty decent as well after the Manchester City game as well. So I think with a good pre-season under his belt, you know, the manager speaking quite highly of him as well, could be a fantastic option at 6.5. Now the next one, realistically, I think it probably should be another 6.5, or maybe you could downgrade, you know, one of the other players to a 5.5, somebody like Emil Smith-Rowe, and upgrade one of the 4.5 million defenders. but I'm going to go for Trossard. He's seeing decent numbers over pre-season, gets you into that Arsenal attack, so maybe covers off a little bit of, you know, the likes of Bukayo Saka, gets you into one of the top teams from last season, and probably will be again. Decent home fixture. And I think realistically that front three is probably going to be something like Jesus, Saka, Trossard, and maybe Havertz a little bit deeper as well. That for me seems like that's what Arteta is doing. He's been very high in his praise of Trossard as well. It is a little bit of a gamble, and I think if you didn't want to go for that gamble, there are plenty of high quality 6.5 million options, but I just wanted to outline him and potentially talk about him as a little bit of a punty option come the opening couple game weeks as well. I think Diego Jota fits into this bracket as well. Seen really good really good amount of minutes over pre-season as well, and has done quite well and has been very much in the manager's regard with positive comments as well. So could see a decent start at the start of the season and could represent a decent not captaincy option, a decent punt option as well. Obviously though, there are, you know, steady 6.5s, the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White, Leon Bailey. If you want to drop down to 5.5s as well, there's some really good options there if you want to upgrade one of the defenders as well. So for me, I've gone for it as a little bit of a punt, but I am offering you other options as well at 6.5. Obviously, Mohamed Salah, we've already spoken about him in length already, to be honest. Really good numbers from last season if you look at it. 18 goals, 12 assists. Still managed to get over 200 points as well. Probably the best captaincy option for match day one as well. If you look at all projected models, he is top of, you know, goal scoring, points, everything like that. Salah is there. Next up is going to be Anthony Gordon, a player that I think has been in every single video I've covered in terms of wildcards. I think he's just amazing value at 7.5 million, to be honest. He was one of the main men for Newcastle last year, second highest point scoring player at home, 11 goals, 16 assists, opening fixtures are pretty decent. I think there's a reason why he's quite highly owned, and there's a reason he's in a lot of people's teams, because fond memories from last season, good opening fixtures, and a really good player, as long as he doesn't move to Liverpool. The other midfield player is, of course, going to be Harry Winks. He represents a great option at 4.5. The only realistic option that I think is going to see a decent amount of minutes at that 4.5 million range as well. But you could very easily maybe drop Trossard down to a 6.5 and upgrade that to Morgan Rogers as well, giving yourself a little bit more attacking flair. That could be a decent shout as well. But let me know what you think about that down in the comments. Let's finish up. Let's look at the attacking lineup. We're going to go for Chris Wood. 14 goals for him last season. The projected data over the opening couple is quite strong for him as well. Really good opening three fixtures for Nottingham Forest. They are playing a pre-season game at the time of recording as well. So Awoniyi is on the bench for that one as well. It looks like Chris Wood is starting, so he for me does get the nod over the opening couple game weeks as well. You've also got Muniz at that price point as well. Pedro Porro, Adam Armstrong, sorry, as well. So some really good options in that cheap kind of rotating striker role, if you like, as well. Next up, it is going to be, of course, the big man. 7.2, 8.5, and 7 for his projected points from Fantasy Football Hub over the opening couple game weeks as well. Some really good data. He is the highest projected point scoring player over the opening 3 game weeks by 1 point over Mohamed Salah. But again, the pros of this draft is you do feature both of those players within your side as well. So very tasty as well for me personally. And then obviously, finishing up, it is going to be Alexander Isak. Again, a player I don't think has left a single one of my drafts. 21 goals last year, 4 assists. Again, really good projected points over the opening game weeks, and there is no surprise with that. Let me know what you think of this team down in the comment section below. If you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in, as we will try to answer as many as we possibly can. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 1. There we go. Hiccup right at the time.